How on earth do you decide if you should play something new on your Switch or if you should clean up something old on your Switch? What's going on, guys and girls? It's Zach from Switch Force, and I've been wanting to bring back these faceless discussion videos for a while. We've started to do so, and here is another one. How the heck do y'all decide what to play? This sounds like a basic, silly, easy question, like, duh, just play what you want to play, but I bet if you're anything like me, it is a lot easier said than done. I have accrued a backlog that is, it's bigger than King Koopa. It would fill up 3 of Bowser's castles, World 1, World 2, and World 3, maybe even World 4. I have so many games that I've meant to finish or that I've meant to start, and when I look at it ahead at like a month like August, right? August for Nintendo Switch fans, starting up here really soon, is a pretty slim pickings month when it comes to like major first party releases. So to me, that's like a golden opportunity to dive back into something that you haven't begun or that you haven't finished. But there's always this poke that like I should be playing something new. And I think part of it is that it's exciting to play something new, even a known quantity, right? Even if the known quantity is good, there's something truly like, tantalizing, almost like risky, almost just exciting about, well, this new thing could be even better. You know, I'm looking ahead to Steam World Heist 2. I'm looking ahead to World of Goo 2. Like, those things could be really, really great. But I already have these games on the back burner that I know are quite good. They've reviewed quite well. They're beloved. I even might have liked them myself. But I notice my backlog just builds and builds. And I think I spend more time thinking about my backlog than I do tackling my backlog. I've got a backlog on Switch, but I've also got a backlog elsewhere. I never finished God of War Ragnarok. I never finished Ghost of Tsushima. I never started Stellar Blade. I played a little bit of, what's that new game that came out? Kunutsugama, what is it called? The tower defense one that's really cool on, it's a Capcom game. Anyways, you probably know what I'm talking about if you've been following recent releases. I don't know how I will ever manage to go back to those things. On the Switch, it's like, right, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I was in love with that the first week, and I got distracted. Something pulled me away. There's indie games that I've begun or that I've meant to wrap up, and it's just a pull in my brain that like, okay, I can't make this decision. And it's almost like the act of not making the decision is more powerful than any game from yesteryear or any game from the current year. It's like the idea of struggling with the decision is somehow more, I don't want to say exciting because it feels terrible, but it's more interesting to my brain than to actually just play something. And I've seen a lot of people more and more lately say, like, just play something. Like, if you can't decide, just play something. That's like the very best thing you can do. The very best is just to like get something in there and get going with it. Like, anything is better than the indecision. Anything is better than sitting there and trying to hem and haw over what you should play. But I do find like I'm constantly pulled, and part of it, right, is like I have this channel, right? I do YouTube. I want to be checking out new things for you all. And even that gets me in a bind because sometimes I'm like, okay, would you all rather see gameplay of the upcoming Steam World Heist 2, even though it's a smaller title? Or would you rather see gameplay of something that I know everybody loves? Like, okay, we could play Tears of the Kingdom. We could play Mario Odyssey. And there's just no right answer. And yet I face this question internally on a constant basis. I have a Steam Deck, right? I can't tell you how many games I loaded onto the Steam Deck to stare at. And I know that most of you out there have felt that. Even if you're good about your backlog, even if you're good about not, being pulled and just lured by the new and fancy, I know you have games that you just look at and you're like, I should get to that. I should play that. I should finish that off. And then you never do. You just have a nice icon. Icon on your PC, icon on your Steam Deck, icon on your Xbox, icon on your PlayStation, icon on your Switch. It sits there as a plain icon. You literally paid for a JPEG, which feels crazy, but we all do it. And I'm always looking for more new games. That is something I'm super guilty of. Like, I have tons of games that I, quote, need to play. I got a little bit into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? I'm always looking for new games. And I think there's something about, like, really enjoying the fancy new as if it's like a present, right? When you open up a new game, it's a unknown quantity. It's completely fresh, and you get to sort of start from zero and see where it goes. And where it goes might be bad, might be boring, might not be, but just the idea of it being potentially great, the potential there, right, is really, really just enamoring, I think. It gets me every time. I've been looking at 1000x resist. 1000 times resist, I think, is the verbal pronunciation. I don't need that game. I probably will never touch that game. There's so many games and genres that I want to will myself into, being excited for, being happy about, being ready to play. And I have so many games that I already know I want to play. God of War Ragnarok is the example I'll use. I know it's not on Switch, but it's like that game has been burning a hole in my back pocket for so long. I played probably like 10 hours of it, and I really loved it. I had tons of fun. There wasn't anything bad about it. And yet here I am years later. Cool DLC has come out. I haven't touched it. I haven't got anywhere near going back to it. I've never even started it back up again. Once I stopped, it's kind of like that was it. Do you ever feel like once you stop a game, it's kind of done for? You ever feel like, once you put the game down, there is no hope of you going back? That might sound like a crazy proposition and a dangerous one, but that's how I feel often, that game goes down. It's not going to freaking see the light of day again. And I don't know how people manage to balance multiple games at once, how they balance new games coming out. I guess it's just like discipline, stubbornness. I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm in a weird position because I get sent review codes. Like I said, I make content. I'm expected and wanted to cover new games. And I therefore have found myself wanting that very much intrinsically as well. Like, I want to play the new stuff. It's not just for YouTube. It's not just because they send me a review code. It's like, no, this has become the bread and butter of how I enjoy and consume video games. And so I end up with so many half-finished meals. And then that takes me to the next point of the conversation, and I guess the darker, deeper layer of this all, which is that I cannot figure out how much of a disservice I'm doing to myself by not finishing games. Like, by leaving so many things in the middle, by leaving things on the backlog, by leaving things 25% finished, 50% finished, 75% finished. How much of the joy of gaming am I robbing myself from? Because how much of the joy of gaming is like, yes, the art of play, right? You're just experiencing it. And for many multiplayer games or games as service titles, it's like, okay, you're just enjoying the sheer moment of playing it. But for so many games, and a lot of the single player games that I think I enjoy, part of the joy and part of the fun is getting to the end, is finishing it, is completing it, is seeing a story through. I find myself thinking I'm not liking video game stories as much as I used to. And I have to ask myself, is it because I'm not liking video game stories as much? Are they not aligning with my taste? Have I just seen too many? Or am I merely not finishing games so the stories seem worse because I'm not actually giving those stories a chance to impress me, to win me over, to see themselves through? So we've got this entire debacle dilemma that might sound like the musings of a crazy person, but it's what happens when you become so enamored, invested, and just integrated in the video game industry. You have all of these games over so many years, right? I've been doing YouTube for going on 14, 15 years now. That means that every year there are a plethora of games that I don't play. There are a plethora of games that I start and don't finish. Add those all up, my backlog is hundreds of games long. where to begin? Sometimes I think it's better to begin with the most recent stuff. Like, oh, I didn't finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Maybe I should knock that off. And then sometimes I think it's better to go back and play the stuff that's widely regarded as the best of the best. Like Ghost of Tsushima gets constant praise and accolades. Maybe I just need to go finish that. I don't know why I can't make progress on this front. I find myself to be, a pretty smart, pretty, I make good choices, but this is an area where I'm completely stumped. It doesn't sound like it should be hard, but I can never figure out how to cut into my backlog. I can never figure out how to be at peace with what I'm choosing to play. I can never figure out how to approach this. And some part of me thinks maybe I should just make it an extreme cutoff, right? Like, you know what? From this day forth, my backlog does not exist. And if I haven't played it yet, I've heard someone, I don't remember where, but someone kind of said this thing of like, I know people love to dip into their backlog, but someone on some podcast or some video that I watched said like, if you haven't played it in X amount of years, like clearly you didn't want to play it. Clearly, like just let that one go. Let that one go because there's always going to be new things coming out. There's always going to be more adding to your backlog, and you'll never be able to catch up if you try and tackle everything all in a row. Is that the right approach? Would that bring me peace if I just eliminated everything? Or do I need to figure out which games are most important to go to? Or is it just personal preference? Is it just the ones that I like? And would you prioritize something that's great and old that reviewed the nines or that people talk so highly of versus something new? Am I just tantalized by the cult of the new and I get these starry eyes when it's like, look, this new game is coming out and it could be exciting, when in reality, oftentimes it's false promise, right? For every one amazing game, there's probably 30 not great games or more. Every one amazing game, there's 100 not great games. So I don't know. I want to share this with you to see if maybe you could relate, find out how crazy I really am, and maybe get some tips on how you approach your backlog, how you deal with all these new games coming out, yet all these games that maybe you wished and wanted and should have finished and needed to finish. How do you handle that? How do you approach it? How do you, they're constantly coming out with new games, even when it's a slow year or a down year. And if you're someone that plays multiple different systems, it's like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. And I feel that constant sense of overwhelm. So what do I end up doing? Here's the funny part of the story. I end up playing Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap is like my go-to. It's easy. It's quick. It's not mindless. It's not like a mindless game. It takes mind. But it's easy and it's quick, and the commitment level is very slim. I pick up my phone, I put it down. I don't have to turn on a console. I don't have to connect HDMI. I don't have to pop out a disc. I don't have to re-download. That sounds like lazy and so bare bones, but really it's like that ease just appeases my mind. And that ease, it's like it's right there, low effort, low commitment, low setup, in and out. I can quit at any time. It doesn't feel good to play God of War Ragnarok for 3 minutes. I mean, that's obvious. How do I deal with this? Let me know in the comments down below what you think I should do about my play problem, my backlog issue, my inability to decide new or old, and how you approach it. Hopefully we can share some tips and cure ourselves of these problems. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for listening and being a part of this discussion. I love you all so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. And until next time, Switch Force out.